Real life, right?
Yeah.
Okay, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My dear sisters, alhamdulillah, it's nice to be connected with everyone here live on RYS YouTube platform. And we have an awesome guest with us today, all the way from the UK, joining on our conversation of overcoming mum guilt while working from home. Rosalind, do you want to quickly introduce yourself, inshallah?
Yeah, cool. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for joining. So I'm Rosalind Batul, and I help entrepreneurs conquer self-doubt, procrastination, perfectionism, imposter syndrome, so that they can live a life without sacrificing their relationships, business, or their faith. And I do this through healing from childhood traumas and generational trauma.
MashaAllah, mashallah. Yeah, we decided to put this webinar together to help many mums who are currently working from home and, trying to beat the mum guilt. And I think all of us, to some extent, struggle with the mum guilt. And I remember me and Rosalind go years back working
Yeah.
as a teacher together in Riyadh. I remember the long commutes and leaving children alone. So it would be nice to share our experiences, and inshallah it would be something beneficial for all the mums who are trying to overcome this mum guilt. So first of all, I'd like to define this. I often hear from mums who say like, oh, I feel terrible about this, I feel so guilty about that. What is mum guilt? How can you define it? Is it self-doubt, stress, anxiety? What is it?
So what I see with mom guilt is this feeling that you're a bad mom or you're not a good enough mother. So usually what happens is we go on social media and then we'll see someone doing something really amazing with their children, and we say to ourselves, "Oh, I'm such a bad mom. Why can't I be like that with my children? Why can't I be happy with my children? Why
Yeah.
do I have to constantly stress my kids out? Why do I have to shout and scream at them?" Especially when you're shouting and screaming at your children, that mom guilt, it just rises to the surface, and you tell yourself, "I'm
Yeah.
such a mom."
Yeah, it's a mixture of everything, isn't it? Like you start doubting yourself and you start, stressing and getting, a lot of anxiety, because it all comes back to, we think that we are failing our children, or we think we're not good enough, we're not like measuring up to society's expectation of being a good mother. Do you think nowadays there's a lot of pressure on mums, like, to be a certain way?
Yeah, there's so much pressure, especially now, because when you think about it, we're not living in a society anymore where the man goes out and makes the bread and comes home and puts it on the table. It's like
Yeah,
right now, especially in the times that we're in, one income is not enough to run a household. Usually the mother has to work,
right.
unfortunately. So when we are comparing our journeys to, especially to our parents' journeys, I think feel like that's what usually happens. We compare
Yes.
ourselves to our mothers. And my mom never worked. She was at home with us all the time. But she had the
Mm.
luxury of doing that because she was on government assistance. But back then, government assistance was a lot of money. It was enough to like live on with children and with like, to pay the household bills, whatever. But
Right.
now that women are transitioning into the workplace, we are constantly pressurized to have a certain standard, right? But when you think about it,
Yes.
we're working 24/7. We don't shut off.
Yeah.
Like men shut off when they come home or when they go out, but us
That's
women, us
right. Yeah.
mothers, we don't shut off at all.
Yeah, and you're right. Nowadays, because of also, like, I sometimes find, because of the information overload
Yeah,
and the social media, right? We think that we may be doing something wrong. I think it really is the feelings of like, oh, I'm not doing enough, I'm overdoing it, I'm underdoing it, and there
right.
are different factors contributing to this feeling of guilt, right? Not just working mom is, like, as a I can relate, you can relate as somebody who works, right? It's
Right,
real, it's there. You
right.
feel it all the time that you're neglecting your children. But then stay-at-home moms also experience mom guilt, right? They're not
Right.
free from this. There are so many different categories of it, because I often hear from mums that they like, oh, I feel so guilty about yelling or spanking, or like some homeschooling mums, for example, like add the extra responsibility of teaching your own children at home 24/7. It's just like, there's so many contributing factors. Do you think this is like, it's just part of motherhood that everybody should just accept it?
Right. So this is like, I've tried to find a balance. Okay. So I take responsibility for my actions, right? But I
Yes,
noticed one thing that, let's say my home's a tip. Like sometimes my house is a mess, and I used to get so upset over it. And I used to think, oh my God, my kids are going to grow up thinking that their mother was terrible, she was disorganized, all these things. But then I realized I have to create the balance. What am I doing right now? Why is my house not in tip top shape? Why does my house not look like all those, influencers that have white everything and chandeliers and stuff? Why does my home not look like
yes,
that? Because I have a deeper purpose. And my purpose is to raise children who understand generational wealth, who get rid of their generational traumas, and also see their mother, living her dreams. I think that's more important than us figuring out whether our homes are, organized. Yes, I'm not saying live in a dirty home, but I'm saying if your house is not like looking at the women on Instagram or Facebook where their homes look amazing and
yes,
yours doesn't, I feel like the comparison mode, that when we go to that comparison, that's
yes,
when we need to pull ourselves out of it and remind us of
exactly.
our purpose and why we're
Yes.
here.
Yes, yes, yes. I agree absolutely. I think a lot of the time we look at someone else's journey on social media, and look at their house, sparkling clean, and they're just, they're just ticking the box in every possible way, right? And then you
Right.
you often you often feel intimidated because. Like, oh my God, why can I not be like this? That you're right. Comparison is, I think, the number one reason why we feel guilty
Mm,
about certain things, right? Because we can't help but compare. But the truth is, everybody has their own struggles. We can't see beyond the camera. Beyond, I often see, these mums who share their, for example, like, rooms and houses on the
yeah.
Instagram stories, right? And it's so sparkling clean, and I'm like, oh my God, how do they keep their houses so clean? And then I always say to myself, maybe they have big pile of mess just right behind the camera. Maybe they have just, one corner that's Instagram proof. It's impossible, right? it's it,
Right.
you can't, yeah, you can't have it all, because it can't be clean all the time. But this is what we perceive it, though, and this is like everybody else. We may be guilty to some extent, projecting the highlights and the victories and our achievements, and then women who are looking at our stories on the other end may perceive that, oh, they're living this glorious life and glorifying motherhood, and they're rocking, working, and raising children, whereas we too have our own struggles, right? We have
Right.
our, everybody has a struggle, everybody has to go through a pain, and but we compare our weak moments to somebody else's strong moments, because what we
Right.
see on social media is just highlight of someone's life.
Right. And another thing, we're doing a disservice to that person because we don't know their struggles. Like, we're
Yes,
doing a disservice to each other. Like, when I look at you, Iroda, I think, wow, Masha, you got 6 kids, you got your own blog, you're doing this stuff. And if I
yeah,
was to say that you are in a state where you're better than me, I'm doing a disservice to you because I'm not recognizing your struggles. Like, come on, 6 children is hard raising 6 kids, right?
yes,
And
yes,
I've got four, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. So I'm really not on your side. This is where I see it, that when I only look at the way someone's Instagram looks or someone's presentation looks, I'm negating the fact that they may be going through a very serious struggle. And
yes,
because I'm negating that fact, I'm doing them a disservice because I could potentially help them. Like, just saying, how are you? You may be able to say to me, oh, you know what, I'm having such a bad day. And that could
yes,
take a load off your mind instead of trying to be perfect all the time, right? Because,
exactly,
right? Because think about it, on Instagram, let's say we have this perfect image and everyone's looking up to us thinking, oh my gosh, she's so amazing. What if deep down inside I'm thinking I really need someone to talk to? And I can't keep
yes,
this perfect image up. So we're doing a disservice to each other, constantly thinking that we have no struggles. Like, this
yes,
is the reason why I always have Muhammad with me, my baby. Like I'm always with him. I don't care if he cries during the live. I don't care if he makes noise, because I want to show people that this is real life stuff. Like your children will cry. You will have days where your children may,
Yes.
may not listen to you, but it's
Yeah.
okay. It's fine. You don't. There's no image you have to uphold.
Yes, yes, you're right, absolutely. And this is, I love the fact that you make the point of, being perfectionist. I think that's why we women struggle with, we all want to tick the box in all areas. Like we want to be working mom, we want to be contributing to, finance of the household. We also want to be raising our children. We also, on top of it, we want to homeschool. We want to teach them, X, Y, and Z. And like you can't have it all, right? You have to, like you said, you have to compromise, and you can't be perfect in all areas. You
Right.
cannot be
And
perfect. You have to give up the idea of, perfectionist. Like you give up the idea of perfectionist, and every one of us flawed, right? Every one of us flawed. What I find is the most, intriguing part for me on this journey was that sometimes, I think oftentimes, most feelings of guilt reflect our attitude towards ourselves rather than our
Mhm.
children, right? Because
Right.
sometimes we're not able to accept our flawed and raw and authentic self. And I know you are, expert in this area. We
Mm.
like self-sabotage ourselves basically, because we have this, idea of like, oh, I need to be this, like somewhere high up, and constantly beating ourselves up and constantly feeling guilty because we're not measuring up to society's expectation of being a good mother, right?
Right. And the way I see it, right, a good mother is someone that is able to feed her children, gives them a place to stay, clothes them, and also is able to be available then from emotionally. If you are available for your children emotionally, and I'm not saying every single day, guys, this is what I do. I put on a 20-minute timer and I say to my children, I'm going to give you 20 minutes of my attention, non-stop, 20 minutes. Once the timer goes, we're done. I'm going to go do my own thing. Because we have this notion that we have to be with our kids 24/7 for them to feel okay. And that's not true. They want your undivided time. They
Yeah.
want undivided time and attention. And it can be
Yes.
5 minutes, it can be 20 minutes. When you think about it, look at your childhood. Do you remember every single memory? No, right? You don't remember every single thing,
No.
right? That happened from the age of 1 to 7.
No.
Only certain bits that we remember that had a massive impact on our minds. And it's usually because of the love language. So let's say you were reprimanded and your
Yeah.
love language is words of affirmations. If your mother says something bad to you, that will stick in your mind because that's your love language, right? But
Yes.
if
Yes.
let's say your parents spanked you and your love language is physical touch, that's gonna stick in your mind because that's something that you uphold is valuable to you, physical touch, affirmations. And I've noticed that the
Yeah.
memories we hold are according to our love languages. So I remember my mum used to say things to me. That's because my love language is words of affirmation. I like being affirmed. I like words. So when my mum used to be
Yes.
angry at me, that's the only memories I have. The other memories I don't have, and also the memories I have of my mom when she was being nice to me, when she spoke
Mm.
nicely to me, when she gave me loving words. I was like, okay, it makes sense. But in our
Yeah.
minds, we tell ourselves as mothers, oh my God, my kids are going to remember this forever. And they're never going to
Yes.
forgive me.
Yes.
And they're going to tell
Yeah.
other people. And the world is going to know how much of a bad person I am. And this all comes back
Yes.
to that comparing, the guilt of comparing. And just like you mentioned about being authentic,
Yeah.
if you don't know who you are and what you stand for, you will constantly chop and change your parenting skills to meet certain standards.
Yes, yes, yes. When like something is going wrong, I think a lot of us mothers, when something is going wrong, we just conclude that we are incompetent in motherhood department, right?
Right,
We just think that that guilty situation that we are caught up in will
yeah,
last forever. We
right,
assume that we have damaged our kids, things will
yeah,
never turn around. And what I find is, children often sense these things, and
yeah,
they leave out our assumptions for us. If you think that, that your children are bad, and things will never improve, it will never turn around, and then children will sense these things, right? And then they leave out these assumptions for us. But I think we have to, like you said, we have to change our attitude towards ourselves. Like I think if we are more forgiving, like practice like self-compassion, then it's easier, right? It's easier to overcome this. Like, just like, if you came up to me and if you said that, I'm really feeling guilty about this, Irada, how would I react? Like, I'd be so kind, right? I would tell her,
Right.
no, Rosaline, you're doing great, you're doing your best, and I
Exactly.
would tell you the things that will get you better. But when it comes to ourselves, we do exactly the opposite. We do the negative self-talk instead of, like, positive self-talk or self-affirmation.
Right.
We don't extend the same grace to ourselves. We just,
Right. And I feel like a lot of us are even comparing ourselves to men. Like in a
yeah,
very weird way. It's like we're thinking, oh, the man just goes out there and he gets it so easy. Why can't it be easy for myself? Why can't I just get it all together just like that? Why is my life not looking perfect the way? Because obviously men just go out, they work, and then they come back and everything's cool, right? And we're adding
yeah,
that burden on ourselves, telling ourselves that I need to, especially when you're working from home, you want to
yeah,
have a perfect home and a perfect business, and it doesn't go. You have to create the harmony together. I like to call it harmony. Like, one moment you may be working more in your business, but it doesn't mean
mm,
that your children are neglected. This is the thing I want you to realize, that when you're working in your business and you're giving time to your business, that is also a haq, that's a responsibility that you've taken on, right?
yes.
If something
Yes,
isn't a
I
good,
think this is especially true for single mothers, right? Single mothers
right,
who are the single breadwinner in the family. They have to feed their children. They have to bring food on the table, and this is also part of their motherhood journey. It's also caring for your child. And like you said, if you have to take time away to work, it's also part of caring for your child's needs. And
exactly,
you can spend like that 1 hour or 2 hour in the house, but what matters is being present in that moment, right? And if you constantly, beating yourself up with the feelings of guilt, then it may take away from, like, being present in that moment, like, showing up uh
right. I
with
want, I
your
want
child.
Right, I want to give you an example, Iroda. And the other day, my son, because he goes to Islamic school now, so I was trying to
Yeah.
get his uniform. I was like, "Where's your uniform?" I was like, "You always lose." And I went off on him. I was like, "You're always losing your uniform. What is wrong with you?" Blah 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 blah. And I saw his face, and I stopped myself. I was like, "You know what, Yaku? I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have said that to
Yes.
you. That was wrong." And you know what it is? It's just that moment. You have to stop it. If you don't
Yes.
stop the moment and apologize to your child, that's when the
Yeah.
moment will keep going over and over again, because you're thinking, "Oh my God, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said that." What you need to do in that
Yeah.
situation is, when you see your child and you come back to the present moment, you apologize. Listen, I'm so sorry for what I said. That is not nice.
Yes.
That was not nice at all. I shouldn't have said that. And I said to Yaku, let's go find your uniform together. Let's find, it was a hat. Let's go find your hat together. Instead of
Yeah.
me berating him, and then later on I will drop him off to school and be like, "Oh my God, I'm such a bad mom." Instead of doing that, I rectify the situation there and then, and that's how you stop the mom guilt.
Yeah, 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 you're right. For example, sometimes, like, we yell or we scream, or somebody can hit their children in a moment of anger, right? So what happens is, afterwards, you start feeling guilty. And I think in that moment, it's very important that you need, like, you just, like, sort it out in that moment. Like, just forgive yourself, and just go and, just say, "I'm sorry.
Rectify it.
What
Yeah,
you did made me very angry, but I wish I had not hit you. I'm very sorry." Like, you regret the action, basically, right? Instead of, like,
right.
feeling guilty and not doing anything about it. Because if you keep feeling guilty, then you start looking for ways of self-punishing. You may, like, I don't know, like, bang the door or start yelling again. Because what we do, I think we try to disguise those, like, feelings of guilt which are tormenting, but we can't. That they need a healthy outlet, right? Healthy outlet.
Exactly.
And they need to come out in one way or the other, subhanallah. And so we talked about stopping comparison, right? We
Mm,
have to stop comparing ourselves, because everyone has their own struggles and pains, and nobody's life is perfect, basically, right? Stop being
right.
perfection and stop comparing. How about self-compassion? Is it something that you do? You also work from
Allah.
home, mashallah. You've got 4 kids, and how do you
Yeah.
practice self-compassion,
Okay.
validation, and accepting yourself?
Okay. I love this. I love this part. I do a lot of mirror work. So mirror work is
mashallah.
I stand in front of the mirror and I tell myself, listen, I look at myself dead in the eyes and I listen, Rosie, you've got this. Right? I just like
Yeah,
listen,
mashallah.
eye to eye. I'm like, I'm looking at you, Rosie. You got this, okay? Stop feeling
Yeah,
sorry for yourself. Just like, especially if I've gone to a moment of like when I've lost myself, I take myself back
yes,
to that mirror. I'm like, listen, Rosie, you made a mistake. It's cool. It's fine. We all make mistakes. It
yes,
doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you're a good
yes,
person because right now you stood here rectifying the moment, the feeling that you have that you're a bad mother or you're a bad person. You're
yeah,
rectifying this moment right now. And I say to myself, listen, I love you despite your flaws. I love you. We're best friends. So I talk to myself in that way. And
subhanallah.
that has given me
Yeah,
that, it's given me that confidence that, you know what, I got this. It's fine. We've got each other.
yes,
I've got myself. I've got
yes.
my back. And when I falter and when I make a mistake, I know I'm going to hold myself accountable.
Yeah, yeah, no, subhanAllah, yeah. I also like I journal sometimes, I think
Yeah,
accepting and validating yourself is the crucial part of, beating the mum guilt. Like I write, for example, I say I am who I am, with all my shortcomings, with my insecurities, with my vulnerabilities, because unless we embrace our flawed, authentic self,
yeah,
we find it difficult to accept our children for who they are. I think this is also the number one relationship killer in marriage as well. If a woman doesn't accept herself for who she is, then she's going to find it difficult to accept her spouse for who he is, because we constantly, like, trying to beat ourselves up and to just be somebody high up, just somebody who may not even exist, right? But there's no such a thing as perfect. There's no such a thing as perfect mother. Every one of us is flawed. Every mother, like, has yelled or spanked, screamed, whatever. They cried at some point, and but all, like, I say that, Iroda, you're a strong woman, and every strong mother can have weak moments. But the thing is, we can't let these weak moments define ourselves. I think a lot of women have a problem, with validation and accepting themselves. Because sometimes I talk to, some moms who say, like, oh, it's just like layman's excuse, being lazy. If you keep validating and accepting yourself, you just keep being the same. Like, there's no change, basically. Do you think there's any such a thing as healthy dose of mum guilt?
or a positive response for you. So with the guilt, what I do with the guilt is, okay, how do I want to be then? So this guilt is telling me that I'm doing something wrong. So how do I really want to be? And I take action from there. Because usually what happens if you go into
Yeah.
spiral out of control and tell yourself that I'm a bad mom, this and that, you are reacting. Now, what we want to do is
Mm,
respond. We want to respond, right, in a different way. Responding means we think differently and then we act differently. So I
mhm.
use that guilt. So whenever I'm in the moment of thinking, oh my gosh, I'm such a bad mom, I'm like, okay, then, so how do I want to be? I want to, and then I
Yeah.
remind myself, I want to be very close to my children. I want them to be able to come to me whenever they want to about whatever they want to speak about. That's who I want to be. And I take myself and I be that person in that moment. And I think, okay, I need to show up like this woman for my children
Yes.
so that I don't end up going into that spiraling out of control and telling myself that I'm a bad mom. So sometimes it's good to have the guilt in the sense that it creates a positive response for you. If
Yes.
it creates a
Yes.
negative response, then it's not good for you to have the guilt.
I think, yes, I think, to some extent, the guilt is a good indicator that some things must be changed, right? Some things must be changed. So if you can just stand up and do something in that moment, then uh, I think it's good. But I think prolonged feelings of guilt, if you constantly keep feeling guilty, then it's unhealthy. Like, you can't.
100% unhealthy.
Then
Because
it's
think
like,
about it. Yeah, it affects your relationship with Allah as well. Think
yes,
about it. When you feel like a bad mom, do you
yeah,
pray properly? No, and it's hard for you to. Sometimes when you're asking Allah for forgiveness, you're doing it from a place of Allah will never forgive me, right?
yeah,
And
yes,
that's not like a good attitude to have about Allah, because Allah says, "I am as my slave thinks of me." So if you're
yes,
thinking Allah will never forgive you, then you're telling yourself that I'm cursed, I'm damned to be a bad mom. and that's not the
Yes,
way that it should
hopeless.
be. You
And
should be
and
telling.
I think that's Shaitan's biggest weapon, you know. The
Yeah.
Shaitan's biggest tool is he tries to, because you know, in Islam we believe that yes, there's nafs, and some things that we do wrong is it's from the, you know, from our own nafs, from the corruptness of our own nafs. But we also believe in Shaitan's waswasa, right? And it's not like, for us, it's not like some kind of creature, like, you know, like fictional creature. It's real. It's real. Like Shaitan whispers and tries to make you feel guilty and tries to make you feel very hopeless. And this is how we like give in, basically, you know, give up.
Right.
And
And another,
even like,
yeah, and another thing, Shaitan doesn't come to you when you're feeling empowered and great. Shaitan comes to you when you're feeling low and guilty. He does not
yeah,
come to you when you're feeling empowered, when you're feeling close to Allah. He comes to you at your lowest, weakest moments. And having that mom guilt is where he attacks you and says, yeah, you see what you did there? You see how bad of a mother you are? Look at all
yeah,
these mothers. Look how nice they are to their children. And you go out to the nursery or you go out to your school's kids' school
yeah,
and see all the kids, the parents smiling at their children. And then the shaitan comes and tells you, oh, look at them. Look how amazing. Look at the way the children are embracing their mother. Look at what you did to your
yeah,
child. You see
yes, and
all those little patterns. That's the shaitan comes to you when you're feeling
yeah,
weak,
making you
not when
feel
you're feeling strong.
hopeless.
Yes,
Yeah, I think this is the thing, you know, being hopelessness is the biggest weapon of shaitan. You know, once you're hopeless, like you can't take up, you know, a course of action. Basically, you can't plan because you just, you know, gave up being like proactive, right? So you know, I also think, you know, nowadays, you know, another thing that I find very interesting is nowadays we have opinions provide all around us, right? Provided like from the moment you have your child, you know, you have books that tell you what to feed, or you have books that tell you when to potty train and how to
yeah,
talk to your teenager, how to talk to your, you know, how to raise boys and how to raise girls. Like, you know, we have all this information that was never available to previous generation of parents. And yet at the same time, you know, with so much information, we just like more bewildered than ever. And one of the things that I find is, you know, when we say no you know, to children nowadays, like some moms are scared to say no, you know,
right,
like, and they just feel guilty. I think this is the unhealthy kind of guilt, right? Unhealthy kind of guilt in
yeah.
motherhood. What do you think? Like, do we live to please and
Oh
entertain our
yeah.
children
Oh my God, yeah. Because right,
24/7?
yeah, because again, we're being like drawn into this society where it's literally impossible to uphold that we have to be with our children 24/7.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're going to grow up unhealthy, emotionally unhealthy. That's not true. And it's so true about the no. The reason why we're so afraid to say no to our children is because we are looking to our children for respect. We're looking to our children for validation. We're looking to
Mm,
our children to validate us that we're good parents. So when you don't feel good
yes.
within yourself, and you're saying yes
Yes.
and you're still not getting happy, you go, oh, mommy, you're the best mommy in the world. I love you so much. That moment is
Yes.
what you're looking for, right? You're looking for
Yes.
that moment where they validate you, but you need to validate yourself so that you are able
Exactly.
to set boundaries with them.
Yes, I think often we want children who make us feel good about ourselves, right? And that's
Right,
why we take things so personally. You know, when they do something wrong, we take it so personally because it hurts our ego, because we want children who make us feel good about ourselves. When the reality is, you know, the only person who can make you good about yourself is yourself,
right.
right?
Right. And I see so many women like when I work with my clients, they go, oh, if they're not pregnant, they go, I really want to have a baby because the baby's gonna love me. I'm like, no, that's not that is like that's like a very subtle form of manipulation because you're telling yourself that you want to have
Mm,
children for them to love you because they'll always love you. That's not true. Children will not always
yeah,
love you. There'll be days where they say some really harsh things to you and it's gonna
yeah,
affect your
yes,
self and you'll be like, oh my God, like how did this happen? Is it me? Am I the bad person? When it's not that, it's just your children are able to express themselves and they have their own opinions. But because
yes,
you're looking to them for validation, it's affecting
yes.
your being.
Yes, yes, you're right. Yeah, and that's why, you know, because we now living in a world that's been bombarded by, you know, entertainment and, you know, children's products and do this for your children. All
Right.
gadgets, like you can do this for your children to make them happy, you can do that for your children to make them happy, take them on holiday, buy them this, buy them that. And most of parents, most moms are afraid to say no because they just can't deal with the natural reactions of being upset, when
Right.
children start wailing and crying, and they buy every gadget out there, and then later on they feel guilty again. You know,
Yeah.
I speak to moms like, oh, I bought my daughter, mobile at the age of 12. Now I really regret. I feel guilty, and I say, just stand firm. Once you make a decision, you want to maintain these healthy rules, boundaries, whatever. Like we have some rules that stems from our religion that we can't allow our children, do have X, Y, and Z, whatever, right? But be firm. Like we don't live to please children,
Yeah,
right?
right. And it's because we're being told that, if you don't please your kids 24/7, then you're a bad person and your kids are going to grow up with some unresolved traumas and unresolved emotions. Because now, obviously, now trauma work is like the hot topic inner work, right? And we all relate it back
Yeah,
to our childhood. So now that we are aware of this, we're so afraid to like say no. But you can say no. Like I'll give you an example. My Yaqub wanted me to get him a toy. I was like, listen, Yaqub, is it the day for us to go and get toys? He was like, no. I said, so what would my response be? And he said, no. I said, that's it. Right. But because of,
mm,
and before I used to be like that with him, I'd be like, yeah, yeah, let's go get wherever you want. Let me keep pleasing you. Whatever you say, yeah, yes, let's do it. And I realized
mm,
that created a negative effect in him. Even now, even to this day, when I say no to him, he still has an issue with it because I already programmed him to always get everything that he wants, the instant gratification, right? He's used
yeah,
to instant gratification. I never taught him that you have to wait. And this is what we need to teach our children, that
yes,
waiting for something and patience is going to
yes.
benefit them in the long run rather than wanting it now, now, now.
Yeah, yeah. And so, like some children can't take no for an answer, for example, and this is also unhealthy, right? Because when they go out in the real world, that there will be certainly moments that where they will be rejected or dejected or criticized, for some things that they did, and they have to learn from things early on. And if you have a rule that okay, no mobile until certain age, then stand firm. If you have a rule about screen time, whatever, then stand firm,
Right,
and
let me give you a story why I do. Yakub, sometimes he goes to me, well, my friend, he has a PS5 and PS100. I'm like, listen,
yes,
what I said to him? So, okay, let's go to their mom's house. I'm gonna go take you to the mom's house. I'm gonna leave you there. He goes, no, 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 mom, I don't want that. No, I said, but okay, do you want the what you're telling me right now? You're telling me that I'm a bad mom because I can't get you the PS5, and I'm gonna let you
yes,
know now. That's not right. And I say it to him very bluntly and very directly. Listen, Yakub, it's not nice for you to say that to your mom. But if you feel like someone else's mother is good for you, then let's take you over there then. If you want to go live there with the PS5, you can have it every single day. I say, is that what you want? He goes, no. He goes, I love being here. So, okay, exactly. So you have to understand that sometimes when you're comparing me to other mothers, you're making me feel bad. And that's not nice for you to do. So even catching the act, because a lot of us as parents, we don't want to catch them in the act. We're too afraid to be
yeah,
direct with our children, tell them, listen, you're going wrong here.
yeah,
This is wrong for you to do this. And then bringing them back to the present moment and letting them know that if you're patient, you're going to get more. This is what Allah has
yeah,
told us. If you're patient
yeah,
and you're grateful, He will certainly give you more.
yeah. I think that for working moms, what is the suggestion here is that little time that you have with your children, make the most of it, right? Have healthy conversations like this. Like my daughter as well, eldest 14, doesn't have mobile phone, and she often says that, like, such and such friend has a mobile and such friend has a tablet, and we say no, but we do so with like understanding. I understand it makes you show some empathy, basically, like you said, cater for that emotional needs. Like, yes, you are old and most of your friends have mobile phone and you really want to have one. I understand it helps you to stay connected. What I said is, like, you can go on laptop, there's Telegram on the laptop, and you can use my account and talk to your friends, right? You don't feel
Right.
left out this way, right? Take my account and go on WhatsApp, because they all have WhatsApp again on the laptop, like on PC. Download
Amazing.
Telegram app and WhatsApp app and talk to your friends. It's okay,
Right.
right? So give them some understanding, show some understanding, because again, if we just say downright no, 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 no to everything, it just shuts down that communication with the
Yeah.
child, I think, and they
And
feel like they're not being understood, right? They're not being seen.
right.
But you can't say no, but then have healthy conversation about it. Follow it up, like show some
Yeah.
understanding and empathy, and
And guys,
which
don't be afraid to give your children a hug. Like when I said no to Yaakov for the PS5, I was like, because sometimes we think that we're spoiling our children with love, and that's not true. You can never spoil a child with love. You can spoil them with things, right? And too much
yes,
material things. But we've been
yes,
taught this thing that you're gonna make the child spoiled if you hug them too much. So when Yaakov or even Maryam and how even Asya when they're having tantrums, when I've told them no, I go and give them a hug because
mm,
you're reconnecting with them. And people think, oh my God, why would you give them a hug? Are you not confusing them? No, because think about it. If you're an adult and you're at work and someone said no to you and you really feel like upset and you want
get
to cry,
hurt.
yeah, and
Yes,
someone came and gave you a hug, would you feel, oh, I'm going to go do it again? No, you're going to feel comfort. You'll be like, oh, okay, then it's fine. You're going to regulate yourself. So we need with your children, you have to help them regulate that emotion by connecting with them. If they don't want a hug, you just say to them, listen, I'm here. When you're ready to talk to
yeah,
me, whenever you calm down, I'm here for you. I'm not going anywhere.
yeah,
I'm staying here with you. And just doing that with your children, it really helps them express their emotions better as
yeah.
well.
Yes, yes. I have a child who's not hugging type, by the way.
Yeah,
She just doesn't like anything touching, right? So what I do is I just go sit next to her, even though she doesn't say anything, we just sit next to each other in silence. But I think that it also helps her. Okay, she cares, somebody cares
yeah,
about me, and they're trying to understand me. I think even if you just sit in silence, it's very important for for a child, right? They may not
right.
open up to you straight away. It may take days or weeks, but they feel understood in that moment. So if anything, you just go sit with like 5 minutes, sit in silence, sit next to each other, right? If they
Yeah.
refuse hug or anything,
And that's the most
inshallah.
important thing. It's about making them feel like they're heard and seen, making them feel like you care. That's the most
Yeah,
important thing.
yeah, yeah. I think we talked about this. Like healthy dose of mom guilt. Yes, it's a good indicator that some things must be changed. But prolonged feelings of mom guilt is counterproductive, right? Do you feel like when you feel constantly guilty, it kind of paralyzes you, right? It keeps you
Right,
stuck.
so much. Right, because it's a never-ending cycle. So you feel guilty, then you're feeling angry and hopeless, and then you take that out on your children, and it goes back to feeling guilty. Right? It's a never-ending
Yes.
cycle. Because think about it, if internally you're feeling guilty, you're only going to act out on that behavior, and usually it comes from a place of anger and frustration. When you're feeling guilty inside,
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to show up for your children as a happy mother. You're not in a good space. You're in a bad space. So how do you react in a bad way? Right? Then that
Yeah.
reinforces the guilt, and it keeps going around in a cycle. And cycle upon cycle, and then if you find it difficult to even run your business or go to work because you're so paralyzed by this feeling that everyone's going to find out that I'm a bad mom.
Yeah, yeah. I really like this. That something that I learned from you is we have to train our mind to act out our ideal response, right? So, for example, what is it that bothers you the most about your children? For example, right? For me, like when they don't listen, the moments I scream and yell, what is it really about? What is it really
Mhm.
about? Then I visualize calm and collected irada, for example, right? That like choosing to respond in every situation, in every like frustrating situation. I visualize, I envision myself calm and collected and talking to my child nicely. So because that's something that you often say is once it's in the mind, it's easier to act upon, right?
Right,
Once it's in the mind, like you can follow it through in real life
exactly.
easy.
This is so key, Iroda, and I hope everyone understands this. Your thoughts become things. You know the hadith about Allah and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, your actions are based upon your intentions, right? But what
Yeah,
comes before the intention is the thought. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if you intend to get married, you will get married, meaning your thoughts will become things. Whatever you
mm,
think in your mind, it will certainly happen, right? Because your mind is a meaning making machine. It's the tool that we use to help us navigate in the world. Allah's given us amazing mind with words and images in it for us to navigate our ways, like a GPS system. So if in your mind you're just like you said, Iroda, if I'm calm and collected, you will act
Yes.
calm and collected. Just like if I
Yes.
say to you now, Iroda, think of a pink elephant, or I say to you, don't think of a pink elephant. You're thinking of a pink elephant right now, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. So your thoughts produce the behaviors for you. So think better thoughts and you'll behave
Yes.
in a better way.
Yeah, practice like positive self-talk, right?
Yeah.
Self-compassion again, like when things go wrong, like spanking, yelling, hitting, whatever, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself in that moment because, like I said, everyone is flawed, right? Nobody is perfect. Everyone is flawed, and if Allah Subhanahu wa Taala says, if a slave comes to me with a mountain of sins, as long as there's no shirk, I can forgive. Like who are we not to forgive ourselves? Really, like
Right.
forgive yourself, but do something about the thing that makes you guilty, and practice self-compassion, like positive self-talk, like I can do this, or I can change, I can stop yelling, or I can stop screaming, and I think these things are really important, inshallah. So to wrap up, before we move on to live Q&A, inshallah, for those who have tuned in, what is the mum guilt, Rosaline? What is the mum guilt? If you can define it in a sentence or two, what would you say? What is it? And why don't we have a term like father guilt, right, or dad
I
guilt?
know.
I've never heard this terminology. It's usually like mum guilt.
Right. So mom guilt is when you're feeling like a bad mother because of something that you've done with your children.
Yes.
And usually the feeling is, I'm not good enough. I'm such a bad mother. I'm a rotten mother. If everyone finds out how bad I am, they're not going to want to know me. They're going to think I'm such a
Mm,
terrible mother. I've neglected my children. So it's all these
yes.
disempowering beliefs around the way you parent your kids.
Yeah, I'm failing my children, I've damaged my children, they'd be so much better off with another mother, like these kind of thoughts, right? And the cause of it can be a number of things that we mentioned. Like, do you want to summarize what are the root causes of mum guilt?
So it's usually the thoughts that we think about ourselves. It can go back to childhood. It could go back to your
Mm,
parents, the way your parents raised you, and you wanted to be different. It can go back to that, or it can go back to you just in that moment of where you're spanking your children or you're saying bad things to them. It's that
yeah,
moment when you tell yourself, "I'm the bad person," and then you reinforce the cycle. So you think
yes.
that thought, then you act upon it. You act angry, frustrated, and then it goes back to the cycle of feeling guilty again.
Yeah, because this guilt syndrome was already there, right? Before you even became a mother.
Yes,
You're
definitely.
saying, right? You were
Yeah.
already like, this, like you're right. We pass this, guilt syndrome like from generation to generation. So we can't accept ourselves. We can't forgive ourselves. So we try to make our children feel guilty for the way they are. Every mistake or every childish behavior, we just keep reacting. Then we feel guilty. We make them feel guilty, and it
Mm.
just carries on like a vicious
This
cycle,
is
right?
Yeah,
SubhanAllah.
and also like the cause of mum guilt is when you wanted validation from your children, and when they don't give you that validation, then you're like, okay, I'm a bad mom. Let me just go act out on that bad feeling that I have. So there's the other side to it is that you may have wanted children to love you endlessly and forever, but when that doesn't
Yeah.
happen, you'll think, okay, am I a bad mom? Is there something wrong with me? And usually the cause is you just don't feel good enough as a person.
Yeah, I think all mums feel like, because today's topic is overcoming mum guilt while working from home. All of us feel guilty to some extent, but when you are working mother, and especially the working from home mothers, right? Because your children are there, but you can't give your attention, right?
Mm.
Your children are there, but you've got some work to do. I think if you work outside the home, they also, I'm not saying that they don't feel guilty, they also feel guilty, but it's really difficult to work from home and
Right.
mother.
And I think it's also because of this concept that we're supposed to only be cooking and cleaning for our children. But when you actually think of it, when we were kids and our mom used to cook and clean, she never, that means that in that time that she was cooking and cleaning, she wasn't giving us attention, right? Most likely she was shouting at us. Like, I remember my mom used to always shout at me because
Yes.
she's cleaning and then the house is a mess, right? So
Yes.
my mother still wasn't giving me the attention because she was too busy focusing on keeping the house clean, right? So it's the
Yeah.
same thing for us. But because we have to bring in the money, we're thinking about the money. That's what causes that guilt. Like, oh my God, I'm focusing on money when I should be focusing on my children. That's the issue
That's
that
right.
happens.
Yeah, yeah. So I think for working moms, because of work, they feel that they're neglecting their children, and we have this perception that stay-at-home moms are making the most of, motherhood
But that's
journey,
not
and
true.
they're with their children all the time. Like you
Right.
said, it may not be true, right? It may not be true.
Right. It's not true.
Yeah,
Because when you're cleaning and cooking and in bed, you're not with your kids. When you're having a
that's
bad
right.
day, you're going to be in your stuck in your bed, or when you're
Yes,
cooking and cleaning, that takes hours of the day. You're not always
yes.
with your kids.
Yes, yes. Not like you said, it's not the time that you spent with your children, but it's what you do with the time that you have with your children. Are you showing up in that moment? Are you being present in that moment? Do you know your children's love language, and are you communicating that language to your children? And like you said, sometimes, 20 minutes and half an hour is enough. Like you make them feel
Yeah.
seen, you make them feel heard, you make them feel understood, right?
Right.
So, what are the course of action to beat the mum guilt? Because I want all mums to, go away with the plan, right? I want to practice A, B, C to beat the mum guilt and, like, be better at who they are really. What do you say?
Right. So number one step, I would say validation work. So go stand in front of the mirror and speak to yourself like you would your daughter. You speak to your
Yes,
child. Speak to yourself in that way. I love you. I see you. I hear you. Thank you for always being here for me. I've got your back. You're my best friend.
yes,
Have that conversation eye to eye, and you're gonna feel really icky doing this. And if you do feel icky, there's a big massive emotional wound inside of you that you never were validated. So validate
mm,
yourself first. Secondly, when
yeah,
you catch yourself in the act of, let's say you spanked your child or you shouted at your child, in that
yes,
moment, I want you to go back and rectify the behavior. And it's going to be hard. The first time, you're going to feel like, oh, I don't want to say sorry. I'm the
yes,
parent, this is and that. But if you know that in that moment you went overboard and you took it too far, go back to
yeah,
your child and apologize to them. So listen, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't
yes,
have acted that way. That's not the way an adult behaves, and it's not right. And give them a hug if they want to hug. Say, can I give you a hug? If they say no, say, okay, just let
mm,
you know that I'm here for you and I love you always, right? And then
yes,
thirdly,
yes,
I want you to do a timer of 20 minutes with your child, right? Give them 20
yes,
minutes of undivided attention. Say to them, listen, you got 20 minutes. I'm going to do whatever you want to do. I'm going to follow you for 20
yeah,
minutes. They're going to get so creative, like play hide and seek. They're going to get so excited. Lean into the excitement and get excited with them. Pretend to be a child
mm,
as well. And then
yes,
after the 20 minutes are up, say, listen, 20 minutes are up now. Mommy's going to do her own thing. And your
mm.
children will feel so full. They'll be like, oh, mommy played with me. It's cool.
Yeah, yeah, Pamela, absolutely, you're right. Yes, for me the same. I think we need to tackle our internal battles first, then do something about it. Right? Do something about it. Um, First, overcome these like negative, worrisome thoughts. Accept yourself, validate yourself, forgive yourself, but also don't forget to take the action, because sometimes we can take the validation too far. We can stretch it too far, and then that is also unhealthy. But do something. If there's something that makes you feeling guilty, do something about it. Go apologize to your child. Spend
Yeah,
quality time together. What is their love language? Give them a hug, give them a kiss, sit down, read a book together. Like, just like you said, schedule 10-15 minutes of quality time together where they feel seen, heard, understood. And also, whatever you have decided as a mother, um, that just follow it through, right? If
yeah,
you have said no to certain things like mobile or gadgets, or going to the cinema with friends, or going out alone, meeting up here, sleeping over there, if you have certain rules where you feel strongly about, don't be afraid to say no. Like, 'cause children often take advantage of our indecision, and they try to make us feel guilty about
yeah.
certain things. Just be firm. Like,
Yeah.
it's for the good of their, of their own. Like, it's for the good of your children in the long run. Just say no, right? Don't give into the temptation, and it's okay. We don't live to please our children, or we don't live to entertain our children, right? We
Right,
want them to be responsible, and don't be afraid of saying no, and don't make them feel guilty about this, right?
right. Big one.
SubhanAllah, yeah. Okay, inshallah. We've got 10 minutes for question and answer, inshallah. I think we have covered a lot of things related to mum guilt, working from
Mm.
home, and action plan, inshallah. If anybody has any questions, sisters who have tuned in, do you have any questions? You can send via the comments, inshallah.
Masha, this was an amazing topic, and I hope that it benefited so many mothers out there, especially when it comes to the inner work.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's very relevant. In today's world, we have a lot of mums, like you mentioned, who need to go out and work, or
Mm.
a lot of mompreneurs who are running their own businesses from home, right? And
Mm.
we do, I think, these feelings of guilt often creep up at night. Do you
Yeah,
ever do this? At night when I'm trying to go to sleep, everything comes back to me, and that's when I start feeling guilty, like, oh my God. Like I
because
was
of
saying to
this.
my
And
friend, yeah, we love as I was saying, I love my children the most when they're asleep,
oh
because
my
that's when I
God,
go back to being, the mother of my fantasies. Like, I'm really good mother, and everything I did wrong or I said wrong starts coming back to me.
right. And another thing that's came up for me, I used to have so much mom guilt, right? Especially when I used to like invest in my business or invest in myself. I would have
Yes,
so much guilt, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm such a bad mom. I could have used that money to like pay for like, buy a toy for my children, or I could have done something else with it. This is how another way how mom guilt, especially if you're a mompreneur and you like
yes,
investing in courses or you're investing in equipment and you have that
yes,
mom guilt come up, you just catch it and say to her, listen, this is going to provide an income, going to put food on the table for my children, it's going to pay the rent. So I
hmm
need this. This is what I need to get ahead so that I can take time off and spend more time with my children. So that's
yes,
another way mom guilt creeps up.
yes. We have a question here from Samira. Samira is saying, I sometimes feel guilty that working from home will take me away from homeschooling to my full potential because of lack of time or energy. Um,
Mm, okay.
your
So
comments on that?
yeah. So what it sounds like, what I'm hearing from that question is, you you're not feeling great within yourself, right? And it sounds like you put a lot of pressure on yourself to get the homeschooling right. Now, Iroda is like the pro at homeschooling, and I remember following Iroda like back in 2014 before I came to Saudi. I was like, wow, mashallah, this woman homeschool, she's amazing, right? But just ask yourself, where is that coming from? That feeling that I need to homeschool to your full potential, or is it to your children's full potential? What you'll find through homeschooling is your children are interested only in certain subjects. And there's nothing wrong with you just focusing on one subject that your
Yeah.
children really love. Right? Isn't it, Rhoda? But
Yes.
what it
Yes.
is, we've told ourselves that we have to be this perfect homeschooling mother. We have to get
Yes.
everything together. The home has to be organized. We have to have A, B, C to Z all figured out. And that's not true. The homeschooling journey is a long, long journey
Yeah, you
all the
you
way.
will figure out, yes, a lot on the go. I think for me the most important part is having a plan in place. You
Mm,
may not follow your plan to the T, but it's very important to have a plan in place. But also, it's equally important to be flexible with your
mm,
plan. So if something goes wrong, don't beat yourself up. But we have a plan, and I think when it comes to homeschooling, the most important part is routine and schedule. Like,
yeah.
children need to know what's happening at what time. We can't treat them like a handbag, just on the go. Oh, by the way, in 5 minutes, we're just going to be sitting down and doing maths. No, they need to know in advance what is happening, like daily, right? It's so much easier, like, to get them cooperate if something is like a tradition, if something is like a habit already. they will cooperate easier, right? I think that the crucial part is having a schedule, having schedule in place, and routine, like
Yeah.
training children in certain habits. Like, I don't sit down and do a lot of work with my children all the time. I just, like,
Mm.
they get on with their work, but we just follow it up. And really, I take everything, like, throwing rubbish out is like, it ticks the box for homeschooling for me, for example.
Yeah.
Walk in the park, having that conversation over dinner table, like,
Inshallah.
having a hug before bedtime. All of this ticks the box. It's also like, what is your concept of homeschooling? If it is
Right.
limited to sitting at the table and chair doing maths, English, science daily, then yes, you may not be able to find time to get it done daily, because it's impossible. Like, I don't sit down with my children to do maths, English, science daily. I homeschool 6. No, like, some things like we do daily, like Quran, for example, right? Because
Yeah.
it's something that we don't miss. But other things, like once a week, twice a week, it is okay. Like, you don't have to do it
Yeah.
every single day.
Because you can think
And
about it, you're not replicating the classroom. It's the homeschooling is totally different genre. It's like we're trying to
yes,
replicate a classroom that's 9 till 3. That's not possible in your homeschooling life because it's not going to work out. You're the teacher and you're the breadwinner and you're working. So you need to find a time where you can, just like Iroda said, plan a time where you can give like maybe an hour to a certain subject or
yeah,
two subjects maybe. Just to give yourself an hour or even 30 minutes. If an hour is too much, 30 minutes where you have every single day you're doing the same thing at that time. And you'll find yourself feeling better about your homeschooling journey.
yeah. I think, like I said, sit down and write down the list of subjects that are important to you. Like, for example, Quran, the Prophet's life, like Sirah. Some things we do daily, like, 2 or 3
Inshallah.
things, and it's really like 20 minutes a day. It's not even long. But some things, like, we do once a week, and it's fine, like maths or other things. And the sister is saying the issue I have with routine is that they want to always play when I want them to learn. Well, they may be learning when they're playing. I feel bad interrupting them and forcing them along when they are learning through play. Yes, obviously, they are learning through play, and play for young children is like a full-time job. It's their full-time job to play, and they should be play, and they are learning things. And I love this quote from Charlotte Mason. She says, as much as 1/3 of education is atmosphere, meaning the atmosphere and environment in your house. Everybody
Mm.
should feel relaxed and accepted for who they are and loved, and these things are very important for someone's education, because they can always learn. Like, how many of us know the um, periodic table, for example? We don't know these
Well, I
things,
don't,
right? How many of us
right.
know the, like, certain theorems from algebra? Like, we don't know these things, right? What is
No.
really important in the long run, try to instill those things.
Yes, definitely. And also, I would ask you: are you putting yourself first? Are you giving yourself some time? Are you some self care? Are you being a bit selfish with your time and putting yourself first? That's important as well.
Yeah, yeah. Self-care is really important.
Yeah.
Uh, we have another question from Nazira. Nazira, who can we turn to as to what action to take? Sometimes we feel lost as what would be the best solution.
What is that in regards to the mom guilt?
Yeah, who can we turn to as to what action to take? Sometimes we feel lost as what would be the best solution.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from that, Nazira, is that you're looking for someone to give you some advice on what to do next when you're feeling a bit lost. And maybe you're feeling mom guilt and you don't know how to get out of it. I would say if you can't afford therapy, I had therapy and that really helped me. If you can't afford a coach or therapy, a really good book to read around the inner work around mom guilt is by Marissa Peer, I Am Good Enough. That's a very good book
Mm,
to read when it comes to like your inner work and your subconscious mind. So Marissa Peer, I Am Good Enough is really, really helpful. Also, if you go on YouTube and you just type in mindset work or mom guilt and type in mom guilt then TEDx, there's so many videos that come up where people are talking about stuff like this and things that you can do to implement it. So I'll say if you
yes.
hire a coach or a therapist, and if you can't afford that, then go to books
Yeah,
and
yeah,
reach out to
definitely.
us. Like even reach out to Iroda and me. Like send us a
Yes.
message. Listen, I've got like a little bit. Can you give me like a 5 minute?
Yes.
tip on what to do. Like, don't be afraid to
Yes.
reach out to people that you look up to and the people you
Yeah.
take advice from as well.
Yes, exactly. I think, sometimes, the best guidance comes from friends, but we are afraid to reach out. We have to
Mm.
maintain this perfect image and keep up this pretense that everything is normal,
Right.
things are great. And no, you can be, um, raw and vulnerable and say, like, call a friend and say, just like, oh, just can you just give me an ear, I have something going on. Just also podcasts, like listen to podcasts. We run Monday Musings parenting podcast for Muslim moms, and the new episode is released every Monday. Go and listen. I think we've done 3 or 4 episodes just on the mum guilt, because it's real. It can be mentally very distorting. We go on, we women like to criticize ourselves and go on, the journey of self-hatred and self-sabotaging. And listen to insightful podcasts, read books, talk to friends. But the main thing is, yes, reaching out to people in your life who can give you advice, inshallah. Okay, Jazakallah khair for tuning in, everyone. That was the end of today's webinar, inshallah. And we have 2 more webinars coming up in the next 2 Thursdays. And stay connected with Raising Young Scholars on...
Sorry, my phone just died. Sorry, I'm just back.
No, it's okay, inshallah. Yep, I think we have...
We've answered the mom guilt. We've done it.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes, we have done it. Yes, and both of us working from home moms and have children, busy moms on the go, trying to overcome this. I hope you found today's webinar discussion useful, inshallah. Please leave your comments if you liked it, if you benefited. You can press like button, share with friends and family. And Jazakumullah khair. The rest are just people tuning in, just saying, it was wonderful. Jazakallah khair. Thank you for tuning in, ladies. Inshallah, we will see you in our upcoming webinars, inshallah. Jazakallah khair for Rosalind Batul. Final words, over to you.
Wayaki, and yeah, ladies, mothers especially, be kinder to yourself. It's okay. We're gonna have bad days, but just be kind to yourself and just remember that you matter too. More important as well.
Yes, definitely. Definitely, inshallah. Okay, if you have any thoughts and suggestions, please send us a message, inshallah. Stay connected. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum, Rosie. Thank you for joining in today.
Thank
Inshallah.
you.